Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about a brief timeline. I'm going to keep it short, bear with me. As to what's been going on, I've been making videos for 15 years or so. I started officially, my official first video, August 31st, 2009. Okay. I made videos about the Nigerian crisis that weren't so good when I started making videos. I was recovering from alcoholism, what have you. I was being covertly drugged, and I was smoking weed at the time, and so on and so forth. And just like, with a lot of people, I was a functioning person who smoked weed, right? And so some of the early video series were off, and they were doing things to sabotage me to keep me from looking good, right? They made it so that the local stores didn't have my size in a lot of clothes, which is kind of what it is already, but they went further than they usually do, right? That's in society, and generally speaking, in society, clothes for tall people, unless you're English or something, are hard to find. But if you're in England and there's tailors and you're rich, certain types of tall people can find the clothes more easily than others. Okay, so they're making it hard for me to speak, so let me just shoot through this. So from 2009 to 2012, okay, I made videos about Black Egypt, about how psychiatry is a fraud, okay, a history of Egypt to some degree. I made videos about martial arts, about women. I made videos about things that related to restoring the moral order. And I said that, there needs to be an order of righteousness and wisdom and so on and so forth, and not these secret societies and these corrupt politicians and these corrupt social clubs and what have you. And I really went the distance to make my points there. My first channel back in the day came down. They were, from the start, they gave me a hard time. And so I had to start from my second channel, which was called Platinum Location. That's where I had to start pointing to the videos at, and the repostings of the first videos eventually come. I get taken to the psych ward unfairly after being set up, right? My older brother basically initiates a fight with me after I had been covertly drugged, and I was kind of angry, and I was making noise in the room, and I guess it irritated him or something. The Santa Clara County Sheriff Department, the deputies came. They played stupid about the signs of him breaking into my room, right? He basically pushed me through the lock, which is a form of breaking into it, right? Because I was like, leave me alone right now. I'm trying to blow off steam. I'm pissed off. I don't want to talk. And so, he grabs me, and it starts a kind of scuffle, okay? So I have plates in my hand with the key in my hand, unlocking my door. I don't want to go too much into details, just a brief timeline. But to make a long story short, he's like 30, 40 more pounds than I am. And it started with him grabbing me. But, I have such kind of intensity and strength that we really broke even. And then my dad comes later, and they kind of team up against me because my dad doesn't know what's going on. And they triggered a response where, so I punched him. I punched my older brother, and that triggered the response from my dad. Because when my dad came, he was standing right next to him in a certain way. And they do things to cause these things to occur. They have a way to manipulate people's unconscious mind to cause them to have certain behaviors. So they can line people up. They can hack animals' brains. I'm sure you all know I'm right by now. Okay. And so when he stood right next to him, I took it as a sign of, and they looked at each other a certain way at the same time. It's kind of like in the Ip Man movie where, after Ip Man strikes the Japanese general, these guys kind of look at each other, right? Like, what's going to happen now? But it was they do things like that are reminiscent of movies and stuff like this. It's a long story why that is. And so I punched him, and then they both kind of came after me, right? And, kind of both wrestled me at the same time. And when I was explaining to the police, I'm like, okay, maybe you can say, hey, I punched him at that point, but that's already after he had initiated the scuffle. Okay, and when we look back at this, I'd also been covertly drugged. And they took it as, they switched it up and basically said that, I was lashing out. They made it seem like I was in the wrong, to make a long story short. Okay, so that initiated the first psych ward visit since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I simply went next door to see my neighbor without my dad's permission. He was pissed off. My uncle actually wrestled me down. It's almost like you would think that magically that's not the story, but it's actually what happened. For whatever reason, my dad's a very controlling person, and he wanted to exert authority. In fact, my older brother, my dad was like holding me, and my older brother was like choking me, okay, and in a position on the ground, right? To make a long story short, there's a lot more to it than that, but in terms of how it came to that circumstance. And my older brother was saying things like, you're going to go to the psych ward and you're going to take meds and you're going to fall in line. He specifically said that you're, quote unquote, going to fall in line. So it was clear that back when I was young, that's what it was about too, right? The CIA and the government pressuring my family. And again, I can't stress this enough. Don't expect my family to give valid testimony in regards to what's happened, because they all, including my little brother, had a part to play, okay, in playing stupid. My little brother tried to stay out of it to the best of his ability, but you could tell that they all have been compromised by the state, and that my dad has had a relationship with the government since he came here for more than one reason being that he's a brain surgeon. Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that he was still the most moral person of his generation. Why that is a long story. How he could kind of have that character flaw in that regard and be this great person is a long story. Okay, so let's stick to this. But that's kind of important in this, these psych ward visitations play a part in this. I eventually go back after being set up again in usually when they take me to the psych ward, it's like I yell at my parents and slam my hand against the wall. There's no threat there. There's just, I'm pissed off, right? Leave me alone. Stop being unreasonable. Okay? This is the type of thing that they're supposed to say when they show up and they don't see signs of mental illness, whether someone's a brain surgeon or not. They're not supposed to take their word for it. You see what I'm saying? They're supposed to say, hey, this guy's acting normal, right? He's a little upset. Okay, he has some kind of argument. That doesn't prove shit. It's he say, she say, right? But they don't play it that way. And they don't play it that way because I'm a political dissident. Okay. So basically that's 2009 to 2014, right? The videos have a certain kind of, they're good topics. I'm not looking that good because I was recovering from alcohol, so on and so forth. After several years of martial arts and not drinking alcohol anymore and so on, I started looking very handsome, and they start really trying to sabotage the videos. So from 2015 to 2017, when I was eventually getting blinded in 2017, you have the top martial arts demonstrations of all time, just world record speed. You could tell my intensity. You could tell that I didn't change the videos. I didn't speed them up. I didn't do anything to change them, right? I recorded the recording, and you could hear the music, and you could tell the blow was as fast as it was, okay? Because they kept slowing it down, they kept doing things, I had to add the stopwatch, and I had to kind of make it more zoomed in. But you could tell how long my arms are, how the frequency of the blows, right, that they were world record speed. So you could still tell. And I had to bend over backwards to communicate that to the videos because they were slowing them down, and I have witnesses on record saying, at least one I can think of off the top of my head, saying that they were slowing down the videos, and they saw that as well. Okay. So we get to 2017, a very interesting year. One of the most interesting years in all my video series in many ways is 2017. That's when they make a great effort to make it so I seem weird, because somebody had pointed out the wordplay to me to a certain degree, and I kind of took it from there and I built on it, right? Eventually I was going to come across it. They spearheaded the movement to kind of get me to try to take credit for. They like to pretend that they're the teachers and the masters, right? So they send their proxies out to kind of tell me things so they can say, yes, we're the master. We have a repository of knowledge, and we are the experts. Yes, Masons. Yes, and play this stupid kind of game, right? And in Satanism, you see these, Michael Kino and Anton LaVey, they dressed up and they did weird rituals and they acted like they're masters and that they're important. And there's a lot of nerds who are Satanists in the Silicon Valley, San Francisco, LGBT guys who dress up and act like they're the masters. It's very, very immature, very, very sick when you look at all that they're doing. Okay, they have no respect for people's history, cultures, religions, you name it, and they have no respect for the wrong reasons. Okay. So, obviously some cultures are more respectable than others. We'll leave that there. So there's a lot of changing my look, right? They add red to my lips in a lot of videos. It changed the way I look. They try to make it so I seem like I have a military body at times, so I seem bigger than I am, and than I was. They try to make it so I seem Jewish and gayish. They try to make it so my face has a sort of wolf-like, jackal-like face. They try to make it so I seem like I'm autistic and so on and so forth, okay? And a lot of this has to do with two major groups of people, right? One is like Jewish nerds. The other is like white, best described as white elitists who try to seem more handsome than everyone else. Think about Nazis, right? And English people who are like Nazis, who are trying to seem superior with their crest social clubs, and they're arrogant, and they have their own kind of culture that's separate than Nazi culture, but there's a lot of parallels and commonalities. And then there's Jewish nerds who just hate everybody who look better than them, and they work together And the nerds, they get to sabotage people, especially black people, with fumes and poisons. Pharmakeia means witchcraft and sorcery and poisoning. And so they poison the black community, especially their leaders. They kill them. They work together to do that so they can make it so white people seem superior. Certain types of rich white people, not the poor guy on the street or in the gentleman in the trailer home or whatever. Okay, not the biker, but the rich guy in a suit. Certain guys like this. Now, there's guys in the military who do military war arts, modern war arts, that they want to seem like they're the most proficient, and that's a part of it too. And then there's globalism, and so they throw the Asians a bone to some degree, right? Kung Fu, karate, and there's Jews, crypto Jews in those groups that try to seem like the masters. And I'm sure when you hear this, beyond any doubt that I'm right. These things are obvious. If politics politicians are corrupt, that there's racist rich people out there. That there's people who are very proud of their race and their cultures and their martial arts. For sure and you'll connect that to the globalism. You'll connect that to the history of psyops and the sabotage campaigns against blacks and colored people and poor whites. That I'm right. That I'm right. Look up Mississippi, Chicago, Flint, Michigan. You'll see countless examples that I'm right. Right. The Tuskegee syphilis experiments, eugenics, right, to improve and impair the racial qualities of future generations using the agencies under social control and so on and so forth. You'll see that I'm right. So in 2018, so this is what's interesting too. After I get back from the psych ward in 2017, it's an interesting year, very interesting. When I make a new channel, and then the new channel you see, I look very handsome. Even though they changed it to like a more Jewish looking look, I look more handsome than anyone alive right now in those videos. Okay, so it's like a mind fuck. Yeah, some of you that makes you like, they don't have to do that way. They'll probably change it in the future, right? They didn't have to do that. So at times it's like they have some respect for me, right? And they to some degree they're mad at me or something. And I've said this many times. If you persecute someone to the extreme for years and years and years, and he calls you names and he's telling the truth about God and he's doing what's right and he's trying to help you, bring you to God, there's only so mad you should be at that person. Like, what the hell, right? You're like, you went there, but you went there first since I was a kid. And you mock God by mocking the image of God. And you're trying to superimpose your races and your groups on the image of God. So how can you be mad at me if I start calling you names, if I start busting you out for it? I mean, I'm doing what's right. So we see in 2017, right after I come back, this is very interesting. I look very good in those, and I have, the black beanie with this kind of blue dress shirt on, and it ends up working out. I'm making, I used a mirror. It's like they felt bad. I think that's what it was to some degree, They're trying to confuse what it's about. It's about the social order, about the martial arts demonstrations, about me being the top martial artist ever, about me arguing that I'm the Prince of Judah, which argument would eventually by 2020 turn into me arguing that I'm Christ. And the idea Christ is superimposed on, and the miracles are figurative, right? So at that point, I even bowed down to God and to the idea of Christ, which was bowing to myself. And I had said, that I believe that Christ is real and so on and so forth, because at that point I didn't know who I was. I knew that God set me apart as the top martial artist ever. I knew that people are supposed to obey God through me, but I didn't know that I was Christ till maybe 2019, 20. I don't remember the exact date. I'm still working on that. That's thousands and thousands of videos to go through. Okay, so in 2017, again, I look good for quite some time, right? And the videos look good. And there's no wordplay stuff in the videos which confuse it. They did wordplay stuff leading up to going to the psych ward that made it seem like I was saying weird stuff that like contradicted what I was saying before, and like seemed like I was changing my mind about things. But that's not what was happening. What was happening is that they had put me under mind control with fumes and poisons and technologies. And I say this knowing there's people who are going to act like I'm crazy for it or something. But this is actually what happened, and the truth will set you free. This is the truth. Okay? And so they had me saying, like, the prayer, the Our Father, with all A's, like Ara, Fa, Tha, Ra, like saying things like this, right? And so I then put it in the titles, and there's all kinds of codes, and I'm thinking, they had me thinking a little bit off, right? So some of the codes are just illogical, and some of it's just logical, saying what I've been saying the whole time, using those A's instead of the other letters, and using the wordplay in the titles of the video. And they had me feeling a certain way where I felt like people would respect it or something. I don't know what I was thinking exactly. It had something to do with thinking. It's like when you're drunk, right? And you think that you look smoother than you do. That had a huge part. That was a huge part of why I did what I did at that point. And yes, it was a mistake, but I was under mind control. And I felt like they were giving me a chance to show them that they should give me my rightful place. They made me feel like they're doing a ritual to give me my rightful place. Okay, And so that, looking back at that, we look at the timeline. If you follow the videos through, you can tell that I'm right and I'm the top martial artist and so on and so forth. But if you look at certain sections of the videos, like, 100 videos in a row leading up to the psych ward or something, some of those videos make it seem like, that the person in the video, which is me, magically is crazy. And I say it so they don't take me out of context, so on and so forth. Okay, so if you take my videos out of the context, you'll be confused about things, perhaps, depending on which section it is. And that's very important to remember that. Write that down, because there's a lot of confusion in regards to that. So, after, I think it's around September, I'll check the date, okay? Leading up to that, I had declared victory in the name of God. I planned to, it was one of, several times during the series leading up to that, during my making of videos, I had said that I was going to stop making videos. And I knew that I had this urge to keep making videos. So I had said, like, I swore up and down that I'm going to stop, so on and so forth. I'm being covertly drugged, what have you, being provoked. And so I go back to making videos. But I had said that right before the blinding. And what had happened was this plane flew over my house, right? It was a plane. And I'm pretty sure they did not have to do it this way. They did it this way for the psychological effect of it. And there was a ton of fumes there. Okay? And, leading up to that, I had told my mother at one point, I said, hey, they're going to fume me, and I don't know if they're going to cause me to so much pain that I have to kill myself or something, right? So I said that you're going to have, my dad has a certain condition. I said, you're going to have to calm him down, right? Because when he finds out, it's going to fuck with his head, and he might get sick and so on and so forth. My father's really old, right? He was like over 70 at that time, and he worked very hard, and he suffered the consequences of working for like 4 decades or so at that point, right? So I said, you're going to have to calm him down, right? And so later on, they fume me to the point where they cripple me, right? My spine's all messed up. I'm crawling on the ground to get places, okay? And I go blind for like 3 days, right? I just see black, and I don't know if my eyesight's going to return. So that at that point, I was seriously considering killing myself, and I wasn't going to give in no matter what. And so eventually I go to the eye doctor, and a series of events takes place, and my eyesight returns. And they chopped up to a migraine or something, but it was those fumes that, it crippled me too. And also during that time, I was still smoking weed, and they had put stuff in the marijuana. So smoking weed also had took away from the quality of my videos. And I went way over time, so I'm have to make a part 2.